I threatened you with a little bit more substance, at least for me is substance, and that is, as of today, I am retiring from the directorship of UKTPO. I'll say a little bit more about why, but Michael Gasiorek will take over as director, and Ingo Borchert, Emily Lydgate will be deputy directors, so that as an institution, UKTPO will carry on, and indeed I will remain as a fellow. This is my 50th year of full-time work, and I think it's come time to hand over to people who've got a bit more energy and better memories. Everyone now knows they have to remind me of stuff. I think UKTPO has been an amazing experience, an enterprise for me, and I think for the University of Sussex. We came up with the idea a couple of days after the referendum, and we all agreed. We actually knew each other, we worked together a bit. And by lunchtime of the first morning, we'd persuaded the university to back us. And by Friday of that week, the university had persuaded a donor to put in a fairly significant amount of money. The fact that we're able to put ourselves around and, for instance, put on conferences like this in the flesh, as we've done in the previous 2 years, in fact, is because that we have one of the university donors has offered a significant support. It really shows the value of having in universities repositories of expertise. We've been doing trade policy and economics for decades in Sussex, and in law, international relations, business studies for at least several years. And no one was very interested. It was not a very sexy subject, but nonetheless they let us sort of tick along amusing ourselves, and suddenly you discover actually it's useful to have people who've thought about most of these things. For me personally, UKTPO has, I think, really sort of encapsulated my belief in what academics ought to be doing. We have to have time and space to do real deep research. That's where the expertise comes from. But I also think that in the long run we have to be useful. You couldn't justify the size of our professions if we weren't useful. And that is bringing our views, our careful analytical work into an accessible form, into the right place, and answering the sorts of questions that governments and other people are asking. And above all, you need someone or some institution that can be objective and independent. And I think if, when I look back on the last 4 years of UKTPO, that actually is what the UKTPO has stood for and by and large achieved. That leads me on really to say thank you. Thank you to all the people who've been interested, who've asked us, who've supported us in one way or the other. I thank you in particular to all the fellows, the fellowship and the staff of UKTPO. They've done all the work, and it really has been my privilege just to sort of hold the steering wheel. I'm very, very confident that the need for UKTPO will continue, and that UKTPO indeed will continue to provide very useful service. So this is not the end for me in any sense, but it is a slightly relaxing moment of not being the guy who always has to respond, to the emails and the phone calls and so on. And I have really more than confidence. I am just totally convinced that Emily, Ingo and Michael are going to take UKTPO forward to a new era. So let me say publicly thank you to everyone who's come, everyone who's in the fellowship and in the staff, and indeed to the University of Sussex, who have been very supportive and let us get on and show that actually we did learn something over our careers and it was useful. And that for me has been a very wonderful experience, I say, in years 46 to 50 of my academic career. So I'm going to ask Michael just to say a tiny bit about what the future might hold, but for me, it is just one big thank you. Thank you.
Alan, thank you very, very much indeed. I do want to say a few words, and I do want to say a few words about the future going forward as well, and I will do so shortly. The UKTPO has been an absolutely tremendous achievement, and to a very large degree, that is down to your drive, determination, and leadership provided by you. But before I say any more, I wanted to invite Professor Adam Tickell, the Vice Chancellor of the University, to say a few words.
Thank you, Michael, very much. And Alan, I don't think you were told that I was going to come and say something today, but we didn't feel we could let the moment pass. So really, as everyone's just heard, today's conference is a really sad day for UKTPO, as Alan's stepping down as director, although as he says, he's putting it into very safe hands. Alan is, as you know, he's a very modest man, and UKTPO really is his brainchild. 4 years ago, when most of us were nursing hangovers in the wake of the referendum result, certainly speaking personally, it wasn't a hangover of joy. Alan sprang into action and started to create what became the go-to place for impartial and rigorous analysis of UK trade policy. It won't be a surprise to you, of course, that Alan is not the biggest advocate for Brexit, but what he's managed to do and what the whole team at UKPTO have managed to do is grow into an interdisciplinary team of over 20 fellows who, with their unique blend of expertise, have allowed UKTPO to develop a remit that ranges from genuinely politics-free technical analysis of free trade agreements, legal aspects of devolution and trade policy making, that because they take the politics out, they put the influence in. The form and shape of UKTPO today, and the fact that it has become a long-lasting success, owes much to Alan's strategic vision and his deep knowledge across several fields. Alan is not just a trade expert, though he really is a trade expert. But Alan's made influential contributions to international trade, also to migration, to economic growth, to development, and so on. His research in these areas has been widely published, and if your interest and knowledge of Alan's work has only come recently, you may not be aware that it's cited in top academic journals and in policy journals. And if it matters to you, he's been cited over 21,000 times by his peers. This is a man who's had a distinguished international career that demonstrates his real, true commitment to policy and public service. He spent time as the Programme Director for International Trade at the prestigious Centre for Economic Policy Research in London. He was Director of the Development Research Group of the World Bank in Washington in the 2000s, after having held positions at the World Bank twice before as Division Chief and Research Manager, and earlier on in his life, just as a humble economist. From 2008 to 11, he was Chief Economist at DFID. He spent time in service of his discipline as editor of the World Bank Economic Review, associate editor of the Economic Journal, and has only recently stepped down as editor of the World Trade Review. He's built and run UKTPO so successfully, in addition to being on the teaching faculty of the business school, serving as chief executive of the Migrating Out of Poverty Research Consortium, which I learned a lot about a few months ago before lockdown. And the achievements of that research program would deserve a seminar all of itself. But to name just a few of the many things that he's done, I'd say one important function of UKTPO, which we don't sing about very often, but which Alan has never stinted from taking the opportunity to contribute to, is the training and the mentoring of junior researchers. Alan's workload at retirement age would exhaust most colleagues that are many years his junior. And the business school, as the home of UKTPO, has always been supremely supportive, acknowledging that the outreach and impact activities of the organisation embody what the business school and of course what the whole university stand for. research with impact, real engagement, and informing public policy. The annual conference, with its insights open to all interested stakeholders, is a prominent example. But serving the policy community and indeed industry happens more quietly. UKTPO's briefing papers on trade policy, 47 and counting, are widely read across academia, across government, in Parliament, and in civil society. And in the last Parliament, I was contacted by I'll say who it was, by Nicholas Soames, who stood down at the last Parliament to say, he asked me to talk about Alan. He said, tell me about Alan and UKTPO. And I said, I did. And I said, why? And he said, because Amber Rudd has just told me I need to read this paper. And it just shows how, I don't know whether Alan knew that, I don't know whether Michael were aware of that, but these were papers that were really influencing and continue to influence parliamentarians in their thinking about how the UK had to and continues to need to chart a course through the most unsettled and dangerous of waters. The website of UKTPO, and actually, Michael, first thing to do is change the name, because it's the acronym is so difficult to say. The website has an average view of £10,000 per month, and fellows have published over 170 blogs. This impact, this public service has sprung from Alan's initiative, his determination, and his leadership. But before I finish, I just wanted to say that I'm personally and really quite selfishly delighted that Alan's retirement will still entail him working 1 day a week. This isn't only because he packs into 1 day what most of us struggle to do in 5, but because Alan is a genuine delight. He's interested in ideas and he's interested in people, and he really cares deeply about the world around him. Many people with these virtues can be dry. You know, you kind of want to like them, but you know, the time is often spent feeling worthy. But in the few short years I've known Alan, I can only think of him as being smiling, perhaps with a glass of beer in his hand, but always bringing energy and vitality into the room. So, you know, on behalf of all the staff at UKTPO, all the staff all the people who've joined the conference this afternoon, members of staff in the business school, and the whole university community, quite genuinely and really heartfelt, I'd like to thank Alan for his years of service, for his innumerable contributions to our university, to public policy, to contributing to a better world, which not many people really can claim to do successfully, and especially for creating this amazing organisation. Alan, you leave a legacy that you can be proud of, and I know that, speaking for everybody in this room today, we all are too. Genuinely, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Adam. That's very kind of you indeed. Oh,
that's from the university.
Oh, a delivery from Adam's office. Well, thank you very much indeed.
We have a spy in the room.
You did mention that it was very hard to virtually show gratitude and thanks, so we did find a way around this problem.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much indeed, and for all the nice comments as well. So thank you.
Adam, thank you very, very much for those lovely words. Really great. Thank you. It would have been really nice to be able to have done all this in person. Sadly, it's not. But I'm not going to take up much more of everybody's time. Let me just say a few words as incoming director. But first of all, with regard to Alan. You know, I first met Alan in the late 1980s, where, somewhat ironically, we were both working on elements of the Cecchini report. And for those of you that remember this, the Cecchini report was all about estimating and quantifying the costs and benefits of establishing closer integration in Europe via the single market. So it is kind of ironic that over the last 3 to 4 years, we've been brought together working very closely on UK trade policy, driven by the departure of the UK from the EU and the single market. I think what has been achieved through the UKTPO, as Adam has very kindly said, has been remarkable in terms of the output, the engagement all round. The idea was Alan's. It was his brainchild that morning after the referendum. Wouldn't have happened without his idea, It wouldn't have happened without the backing of the business school, with the head of the business school, Steve McGuire, or with your backing, Adam. So big thanks also to you for that. But the UK would not be what it is without your drive, determination, work ethic, sense of public duty, and intellectual leadership. So a very, very big thanks to you. And let me also repeat or reiterate something that Adam said, which is it's also been a real pleasure working with you. And all of us have learned so much. I'd also just like to take the opportunity to give a big thanks to Jim Rollo. Jim is resigning as Deputy Director. I've also known Jim for many years, and his experience in the Foreign Office, at Chatham House and in academia has proven invaluable also in helping steer the good ship UKTPO. He provides much needed wisdom and perspective. Now, while both Adam and Jim are resigning from their current sort of directorial positions in the UKTPO, I very, very much hope, and I'm sure that Ingo and Emily will concur with this, very, very much hope that you will remain very actively engaged in the UKTPO, continue to provide your input, advice and guidance. You are allowed the odd weekend off, you can play your violin a little bit, but we do hope you'll stay engaged. Okay, that leads me to taking the UKTPO forward. Taking over the directorship is a big challenge, if nothing else because of the challenges facing UK trade policy in the years to come, and Ingo alluded to those earlier. Those challenges go way beyond Brexit and the relationship with the EU. They encompass the challenges facing the world trading system, the challenges of shocks such as COVID, the rapid advances in technology which are changing the way we do things, the way we trade. Commenting on this, analysing this, doing serious research, proposing, questioning, having the capacity to independently inform the public debate and to try and influence the public debate is something that I really, really firmly agree with Alan on that. Our role as academics, in particular, I think in a discipline such as economists, is not just our ivory tower, but to really have public policy relevance. And I believe in that very, very firmly. So my aim is for the UKTPO to go from strength to strength and to really be seen as the go-to place for trade policy in the UK for years to come. That can only be achieved by continuing and developing what we've been doing for the past few years and growing in size. I believe that our unique position, our success also in part stems from the fact that we kind of straddle the think tank world and the academic classical research centre world. And that straddling, continuing that straddling, and building on that will be key to our future growth. And I'm really looking forward to that challenge. I'd also like to say that I'm really delighted to be working with Ingo and Emily as Deputy Directors and looking forward to working closely with them. Which leads me perhaps to my final point. I also think that another key factor underpinning the success of the UKTPO, and for me one of the real pleasures, if one can get pleasure from the whole Brexit debacle of the past few years, has been the level of collaboration, trust and team working that we have achieved in the UKTPO. And that's not just between the academics working across different disciplines, but also with the other crucial team members involved in administration, marketing, impact. The future success of the UKTPO will also depend on that continued collaboration and team spirit, and that is something that's very important to me. On that note, let me close. Let me finally just give my very, very heartfelt thanks to Ingo, Tina and George for the superb organisation for this conference, which has been truly very stimulating. My thanks to all the speakers, discussants and chairs, and to all the participants. We look forward to welcoming you to future UKTPO virtual lunchtime seminars, and in a year's time for the next annual conference, possibly in person with a little bit of luck. But in the meantime, thank you all for attending, for listening to us, and we look forward to being in touch. Finally, once more, a very, very big thank you to Alan.